I love discounts. I love discounts at Sephora. I love discounts at Sephora on fragrances, and their big sale just started. So you know what that means. The wish list is out, and I have recommendations for you because why? They sell like 800 fragrances, and who has the time to go through all of them? I do. I have the time, and I'm gonna help you out because you're welcome. I'm a giver. Hi, I'm Janique, and there's no such thing as too many fragrances. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And in today's video, I get into 25 fragrances that are on my radar, that are sold at Sephora, that I want, that I'm gonna test, that I think are intriguing, and they run the gamut. We got fresh, we got gourmands, we got florals on florals on florals. But what we don't have, are spicy fragrances. You're welcome. Let's get into it.
Looks like I lost my favorite times.
All the perfume. I want to buy everything at Sephora. I can't possibly pick everything up. So I wanted to be reasonable and pare things back and present to you a wish list that was stripped back and simple. We got 25 fragrances here, you know? Self-control there. Yeah. So the categories are gourmands. Okay, delicious, lovely. Vanilla. They need their own category because it's the best note. We got florals, warm florals, and fruity florals. I'm not saying that 3 separate floral categories were necessary, but they were. Citrus, the best type of fruit note, obviously. Chypre, an old school type of fragrance that I fucks with. Chloe Nomad is a type of Chypre fragrance. We love her. We got green scent / tobacco. We mixed and combined because there weren't enough for me to care about. Woods, musks, and leathers. And we're finishing off with fresh scents, and I'm excited about the freshies. They're both very similar, but you know, we love them. And finally, we have some honorable mentions. I'm not saying they're all florals, but basically, because I couldn't fit all of the ones that I wanted into 3 separate categories. I would have had to create like 4 more categories for the rest of the florals I wanted, and that seemed excessive. Let's get into it. First gourmand fragrance I want to talk about is one that the universe keeps getting in our way. It doesn't want us to be happy and to live together, and it is Dolce from Rosie Jane. I want it. It's a chocolate fragrance. It's heavy, it's a little bit powdery, it's thick, it's delicious, it's wonderful, and I love a good dark chocolate fragrance, right? So it's been out of stock for months now. Of course it has, because it's delicious. And it finally comes back into stock on Monday. And I think, why would I buy it full price when I can get it on discount? I'm going to wait till Friday. You know what happened? It sold out, obviously, by like Wednesday. And now there's a hazmat warning which says it cannot be shipped in Canada. So I may never own this fragrance. I'm a little sad about it, but I still want it. I really, really do. The second fragrance that is on my gourmand radar is Rosa 62 EDP, because we've all tried the body splash. Of course we have. The Bum Bum Cream went viral for a reason. It's delicious. It's pistachio. It's almond. It's caramel. It's salt. It's salted caramel with pistachio and almond. What else do you want? It is such an addictive fragrance. I wore it last night to bed, and it was just more confirmation that I need the perfume version, because I need to just have this on my body all the time. Get into that one, please, because it's so good. Picking the 2 vanillas to talk about in this video was just about impossible, because there are like 33 that I would buy today if I could. But I'm gonna talk about the 2 that are at the very top of my list, but for different reasons. And the first one is a newbie to the scene, and it's Black Opium Le Parfum. Now here's the thing, I'm not a Black Opium girly. I mean, it's fine, it's pretty. I'm not obsessed. I'm not gonna go out of my way to get it. But the new one, which I've tried, is a heavy vanilla version of Black Opium. So it's Black Opium's signature coffeeness mixed with vanilla. It's vanilla and coffee together. It's vanilla and coffee. Now what else do you need? It's thick, heavy, resinous vanilla with coffee in it. What more can I say but delicious? I want it. The second one is one that has moved from wishlist to wishlist each year, and it just never gets bought. So even though it's been in the top 10 for a long time on my wish lists, it's never made it to the top 5. It's never made it to number 1. But this year I'm gonna change that. and it's Dior Addict, and it's vanilla meets white florals, which if you know me, you know I love some white florals. This one has jasmine, it has some orange blossoms, we got some pear, we got some black currant. It is a beautiful fragrance with some heavy vanillas in it, and I've been putting off getting it because it's been around since 2002. It's not going anywhere. I don't feel like I'm in a rush, but I have fragrances in my collection that are not nearly as good, and it deserves to be in my life as much as I deserve to have it in mine. So these are the two that are the top of my list currently, and I cannot wait to add them to my collection. Getting into 3 separate floral categories because I couldn't limit myself to just 2. I love florals way too much. You're welcome. We're going to talk about 6 florals that I would love to add to my collection, and maybe some others. 6 florals definitely that I love to add to my collection, but there are different types of florals, so let's talk about it. We're going to talk about some classic florals to start off. The first one I'd want to get ASAP is from Estee Lauder, and it's called Gardenia Tuberose. It sounds like what it is. It's gardenia and tuberose with some orange blossom that adds a bit of an animalic element. So if you don't like a good white floral, this is not for you. It's a very clean, classic representation of a white floral that hasn't been pulled back, reined in by fruit or woods or whatever else. You gotta love white florals to love this one, and I love them. I love them. Now this costs like $211, so it's more expensive than the average Sephora fragrance, which is why I have not added it to my collection, but I would love to because it sounds stunning. The second fragrance that I would want to add is Dolce & Gabbana's Perfume. Now, it's a primarily powdery fragrance that has heliotrope in it, but we got some other things. We got some marshmallow, some sandalwood. We have a bunch of citrus in here. We have some orange blossom as well. So again, more white florals. I didn't even realize I just picked a whole bunch of white florals. I don't think there's a rose fragrance in here. I'm sorry. I thought this was more diverse than I thought it was more diverse than it is, but no, it's another white floral fragrance. Now, if I couldn't get Dolce & Gabbana Perfume, which is really high up on the list for me, I'd get Dolce & Gabbana Perfume Intense, which again, oh my god, it's a tuberose orange blossom fragrance. Yeah, same. It has marshmallow, a lot of citrus in there. There's some sandalwood. It's divine, and I want them both, and I'll probably buy them both. I'm not even gonna lie. Let's get into warm florals, which I think is maybe my favorite floral category, to be honest, or at least the one that is represented most heavily in my collection. And so finding the 2 in this section that I thought would be the best gets for me was hard. But the first one for me, I think, is gonna be the flanker of Victor & Rolf's Flower Bomb, and it's Ruby Orchid, which is a peach orchid vanilla with a little bit of greenness fragrance. It's really marmalade like. It's heavy, it's thick, it's beautiful, and it's great for cooler weather, and it's just a delicious sweet fragrance that I would just love to have in my collection. While the second one isn't as beloved. Everybody loves Ruby Orchid. There is a consensus that it is that girl. It is so good, but the second one isn't as beloved. There is some controversy. It's L'Entité Rouge from Givenchy. Now, here's the thing. I love this fragrance. I've tried all of the fragrances in this line, and they're nice, but the moment I smelled this one, there is a smokiness and a heft to it that is really sexy to me that I became obsessed with. It is a tuberose fragrance. It has vetiver. It has heavy, dirty patchouli. So this is why not everybody loves this one. It's not for everybody, but I think it's so incredibly sexy. So if you like a darker, deeper floral fragrance, check this one out. Try to get a sample, try to test it out in store, because I think it is just grown, beautiful, and so flattering, and I would love to add this one to my collection. The next 2 fragrances fall under the banner of fruity florals for me, and this is one of my favorite categories for a good reason. Even if people say fruity florals are basic, I love them. Maybe because I'm basic, whatever. I have had these fragrances on and off my wish list for multiple years now. This is an old school fragrance that you can tell is an old school fragrance, but I love it, but I hate it, but I love it. I want it, but I don't want it. I don't know. I am confused, but it's on this list because it deserves to be, because it spent more time on my wish list than anything else. It's Haute Couture from Givenchy. It's the EDT version, not the EDP version. Now here's the thing. I've talked a lot about how I don't love spicy fragrances. This has some spice in it. It really does. But it has a beautiful white floral accord to it that is just so creamy and beautiful and lovely. And it has juicy strawberry, and clean, crisp citrus. It brings together some beautiful elements, and that spice does make it more interesting, but I go back and forth about it. And I don't know. I want it, but I don't. I think I should get it and wear it because I think I'd fall in love with it. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. Not because it is not a great one. It's because I have a love-hate relationship with spices. And sometimes you got to go outside of your box and pick something up that maybe isn't perfectly suited, but you think is beautiful. It's artful. And there's a reason it's been around since the 2000s, early 2000s actually. It's a beautiful one that smells a little bit old school because it has been around for over 20 years. But I love it, I think. Let's go on to the second one, which I know I love. And it's from Ellis Brooklyn, and it's Floral. It's a new fragrance. I talked a little bit about it in a previous video, just briefly. And I managed to get my nose on it and test it. And I'm really into this one. So again, why floral? Let's not get into that part. But it has this really heavy, almost masculine woody note and these really beautiful citrus notes as well. And I think the thing that makes this interesting is the ambroxan that's in here and the heavy woods. And it comes through, especially in the dry down, really, really differently than I usually wear my fragrances, right? It comes off a lot more unisex, but this really pronounced white floral balances things out to make it like decidedly feminine, but like powerful at the same time. And I think it's a really wonderful, lovely fragrance that reads as like soft power. And I want to get into that. We've made it to citrus, y'all. A fun, happy place, because what else is citrus if not fun and happy? I love citrus fragrances, especially in the height of summer, for just being clean and fresh and wonderful. And the two citruses in this category represent two different sides of the spectrum and are very different from one another. So the first one is from Ness, and it's called Citrine, and it uses lemon blossom with dewy green notes. So it's giving you not a sharp fruit-like citrus, but this really restrained soft citrus with a bit of greenness, some wateriness that is really like fresh. It smells like morning air almost, if you lived close to an orange farm or something. It is beautiful, it is clean, it is bright, it is sunny, and I am obsessed with this one, and I would love to add it to my collection. The next one is very different. It's from Acqua di Parma, and it is called Yuzu. Now, Yuzu is one of my favorite citrus notes, right? It is not only bright and crisp, it's a little bit bitter. And I've talked about how I love bitter orange because I love the bitterness in the back of a fragrance that just kind of powers it up. It like adds a battery in the back of the fragrance, and Yuzu does that nicely. And this one is citrus and pepper together. Yes, it is so fresh and bright, like you're screaming fresh when you put this on. It like perks you up, it wakes you up. It's so good. And there are a lot of fragrances from this brand that I think are really special, but this is by far my favorite. Number one, because not a lot of the designer houses use Yuzu as much as they should, because even though bergamot is everywhere all the time, and I love bergamot so much, I'm not hating, I wish more used Yuzu because I think it's such a special note. Or maybe just people just don't love the bitterness as much as I do. Maybe that might be the thing. But if you are curious and you love a good citrus fragrance, things like light blue are very classic citrus fragrances, this is a really special one. So if you can get your nose on it, check it out. Yuzu from Acqua di Parma, definitely. Logical place to go after citrus is to Chypre fragrances. Now, I understand Chypres are one of the least popular fragrance families out there, especially in 2023, but I still love them. So we're going to talk about two Chypre fragrances I would love to add to my collection. So what is a Chypre fragrance, right? So the modern Chypre generally has citrus in the opening, so something like bergamot. In the mid, you have a floral, something like labdanum, which is really heavy, really resinous, really thick. In the base, we have amber and oak moss. You might have other things happening, but usually those four elements are present in the modern Chypre fragrance. A good example would be Chloe Nomad, Burberry Touch, both of which I have in my collection. I'm a Chypre fan. Let's just put that out there. So the first one I'd want to add to my collection is from Juliette Has a Gun, and it's called Mad Madame. And everything about this sounds like something that I would really, really enjoy. So we have all of the traditional elements. We have the oak moss, we have the amber. In the mid, we have things like jasmine and some tuberose. We have a lot of citrus. We have some orange, we got some bergamot, we got some lemon, we got all kinds of citrus. The thing that I find most intriguing is the castoreum. We have a fucking heavy animalic note in here that I imagine people hate. This has really low ratings, so maybe there's good reason for that. Maybe it smells terrible, or maybe people just don't like chypras and don't like animalics, and the combination of the two is making it repulsive to folks. But I want to try it. I want to add it to my collection, so it's on the list. The next one is an old school fragrance from like 1971 that's still in production, which I think says a lot, and it's from Clinique, and it's called Aromatics Elixir. Now, apparently, and I haven't actually tried this in person on my skin, but I've smelled it before, it smells like a spa. It has very heavy aldehydes. Now here's the thing, I don't like aldehydes, I don't like spices, and they're both in here. So why am I trying to add it to my collection? I don't know. Masochism? But I want it. I really need to rethink my choices in life. Seriously, I really do. Fresh fragrances aren't usually my go-to because I feel like if I'm spending $200 on a fragrance, it needs to be doing work, right? And a lot of fresh fragrances underperform in my book. But I guess if you're looking for that sort of clean aesthetic kind of fragrance, maybe you're not looking for powerhouses. But for $20, like, I want a powerhouse, right? But these two fresh fragrances, I think, do everything that I need them to do, and I'm excited about them. The first one is from Skylar. It's called Salt Air, and it's a mixture of sea moss, mineral notes, salt, and sea notes all together. There's driftwood. It smells like the beach. It smells like the beach and salt air, and I love that for me. It feels very nostalgic and beautiful and wonderful, and I find it very comforting. I used to live by the beach. I'm from Jamaica, so I love a salt air fragrance, and I want this one. The second one is from Dolce & Gabbana, another Dolce & Gabbana fragrance. I know, and it's Dolce Shine. It is a solar fragrance that brings together, wait for it, tropical fruit and solar elements. Hello? Yeah, we love it. So we got solar notes, we got some ocean notes, we also have some salt, we got mango in it. Salt and mango. What more can you ask for? Dolce & Gabbana Shine. Now this is an EDT fragrance. It doesn't last a long time, but it's usually less expensive, and you can usually find these lines of fragrances between like $35 on like $55 on discount websites. Now I'm not talking about discount websites for the purpose of this video because we're going to Sephora, we're getting things discounted, but it's usually less expensive than most Dolce & Gabbana fragrances, and I feel like it is worth the money because it's happiness, sunniness, and summer in a bottle. What more could you want? Seriously. This category is a little different, and here's why. I have travel sizes of both of these fragrances, and I just want full bottles. So for most of the fragrances on this list, I've tried samples, I've tried them in store, all of those things, and I want. These I have, I wear, I finished. I want to replace it with big bottles because I've enjoyed them so much. I didn't think I would, and so I didn't buy full sizes to begin with because they're a little odd. But as it turns out, it's a love for me. And it's the green/tobacco category. I combined these two for a lot of reasons, but the first one is Jazz Club from Maison Margiela's replica line. Y'all, I have a few fragrances from the replica line. I love Lazy Sunday Morning. My favorite fragrance in the line is When the Rain Stops, which I guess would fall in line with like green scents, right? But I love Jazz Club so much, and I don't have a lot of smoky fragrances. Now here's the thing, I love tobacco and fragrances so much. You might not know this from my last video where I was shit talking tobacco vanille, which I was because it's trash. But I love tobacco in fragrances. I love cigarette smell in fragrances. I love fire accords in fragrances. Here's the thing, I'm gonna tell this story that no one cares about. Let me talk about it anyway. I went to Paris. I took a class on making your own fragrances, and you got to pick like 4 or 5 notes to add, and I added tobacco. I had 5 in the whole world to add to a fragrance of my own that I would bring home with me, and I added tobacco to the fragrance that I made for myself. One of my favorite fragrances, hands down, is Maison Crivelli's Lee Solerberg with this very deliberate, very intense tobacco note. I love tobacco as a note, and a lot of women's fragrances just don't have them. Jazz Club, I feel like, reads pretty unisex. I don't think it's masculine. I think it's unisex, but it has this really heavy, strong tobacco note in it that I absolutely love, and I want a full bottle of it so much. The next one, I did a whole video on commodity fragrances, like a guide to commodity, and I talked about how my favorite commodity fragrance, hands down, across the different scent space like lines, is Moss. I can't explain to you my soul tie with Moss, but there is one. There's something about this really intense green smell that I find really, really addictive. And each of the Moss fragrances, whether it's bold or expressive, each of them is different. One is a tea fragrance, one is an oak moss fragrance, and one is a cut grass kind of fragrance. This one is the oak moss fragrance, which takes us back to Chypre, which has oak moss in there. You can tell what I like, right? And I fucking love Moss so much. I think it's a lovely green fragrance that I understand not a lot of people love, but I do, and I hope to add Moss to my collection, big bottle, but I also want to add gold, but Moss before gold. I mean, obviously, it's so much better. If you watch a few of my videos, you know I love an ultra feminine fragrance, which usually means that I don't feature a lot of heavy woods in my collection, but there are some heavy woods fragrances that I think smell great on women and I want for myself. And the first one is from Giorgio Armani, and it's called Scent-sational. It's from their Privé line. It's a little bit pricier, so if you want to pick it up during the sale, this would be the time. But it's a beautiful sandalwood fragrance that brings in all of these aromatic elements. It opens up with this really crisp bergamot, really great citrus notes. We have all of these really heavy resinous elements in the fragrance as well, and make it really heavy, really thick, really sits on the skin nicely, and all these different woody elements, especially a wonderful creamy sweeter sandalwood. It is a lovely clean, if you can think of woody as clean, fragrance that's like unadulterated by a lot of heavy fruit. It doesn't have the extra sweetness. It just reads ultra sophisticated, and I love this particular woody fragrance. Fragrance is from Jo Malone, and it's wood sage and sea salt, and I am obsessed with this one. I'm not a Jo Malone girly, right? I really enjoy Nectarine Blossom and Honey. I think it's a beautiful fragrance. It almost made this list in the fruit category, but this fragrance I think is really special. Now, you might have noticed there's a lot of salt on this list, and I recognize that salt is not for everyone as far as notes go. So mixing salt with woods and all of these ozonic elements might not be for most women, but I find it to be very crisp, very clean, very straightforward, and it just feels very powerful to me, and I love wearing this one. So if I can pick it up for a steal of a deal, I absolutely will fucking do that. Absolutely. Are any of my wishlist fragrances on your wish list as well? Is anything on your radar? Are you even shopping the Sephora sale? Let me know down in the comment section. I want to hear all about it. And if you enjoyed this video, check out my last wishlist video where I talked about all the other fragrances I wanted to add to my collection, some of which I subsequently did because I follow through on things. Thanks so much for stopping by, checking out my video, showing me a little bit of love. If you haven't done so already, subscribe, hit the notification bell button, leave a comment, leave a like, do all the things. Let me know you were here. Let's have a conversation about things. I'm Janique. I'm going shopping later and can't nobody talk to me. And when I pick up what I pick up, I'll share it because I'm a giver and a spender and a lover of fragrances. Bye, y'all.
You've been on the mind. I've been seeing great lights, got in such a great